call to order the May 13, 2014 meeting of the Oshkosh Common Council. I want to welcome those of you that are here in the council chamber to the council chamber. I also want to welcome those people who might be watching us on Channel 10, those people who might be watching us on their computers, those people who might be listening to us on the computers, those who might be listening to us on the radio. This is your city government. We want your interest. We want your participation in whatever form it takes. So welcome. I think we're going to introduce some new staff before we get into the business part of the meeting. So, Mr.
Yes.
Roloff, the city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. It's my pleasure to introduce two new staff members, Brenda Hicks Sorensen and Nancy Jo Dietzen. If you could stand up so everybody can see who you are, especially on TV. Thank you. Ms. Hicks Sorensen is our interim economic development manager. She's going to be with us on an interim basis, contractual basis, to help us get our sea legs going with our economic development efforts. She comes to us most recently from the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation, so she worked at the state level, and prior to that she was with Fond du Lac County Economic Development Corporation, so she has a great deal of knowledge about local as well as statewide economic development issues and is well known in the economic development world. Nancy Jo Dietzen, some of you may be very familiar with Ms. Dietzen. She's our economic development analyst. She was previously with Chamco, so we worked very closely on a lot of efforts, particularly in our Southwest Industrial Park, but also our other industrial areas. Nancy Jo will be working with us on real estate issues as well as just other general business retention issues, and we're happy to have both of them join our staff.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Okay, we'll have the roll call. The council members. Yes, the city clerk.
Peck.
Here.
Herman.
Here.
Allison Osby.
Here.
Pansky.
Here.
Fitzgerald.
Here.
Cummings. Tower.
Here.
Present 6.
I'm going to ask everybody to rise for the invocation by Councilmember Peck, and we'll have our students lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance right afterwards.
As we gather tonight, we are grateful for the good things that have come to this city. May our decisions always be ones that are for the well-being of all whom we govern. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ask our students. Yeah, they're already turned around. Good. They're ready. We do appreciate it when the students come down and participate by helping us out here. But we'd like to find out a little bit about each one of you. So I'm going to pass the microphone down, and why don't you give us your name, where you go to school, what grade you're in, and as you all know, we're getting near the end of the school year. So what's something you're looking forward to this summer?
My name is Grace. I go to Emmeline Cook, and I'm in 5th grade. And something I'm looking forward to this summer is being able to go outside and play and swim.
My name's Veronica. I also go to E-Cook School. I'm in 5th grade, and something I'm looking forward to do over the summer is playing and spending more time with my friends, going swimming, boating, and fishing.
My name's Michael. I go to Oaklawn School, and I'm in 4th grade, and I'm looking forward to camping during summer.
My name is Avery, and I go to Oaklawn School. I'm in 4th grade, and I'm looking forward to doing 4-H and shows with my horse this summer.
Well, again, we thank you. And I have a certificate for each one of you, so I'll pass these certificates out now. Michael and Avery. We could have a hand for our students for helping us out. And we're going to let each one of you go now. You can go home. You don't have to stick around and listen to the rest of what's going on here tonight. So, again, thank you, and have a great summer. Okay, I have a couple of public hearings here. The public hearings are things I'm going to have to read 3 times, and as I read each one 3 times, or we'll take them one at a time, but as I read it, going through it 3 times, if you would like to comment on it, please come up to the microphone. It's an open microphone up there, and you can make your comments regarding the particular public hearing. First one has to do with Resolution 14-208, approved submittal of 2014 Community Development Block Grant Action Plan. Resolution 14-208, approved submittal of 2014 Community Development Block Grant Action Plan. Third and final reading, Resolution 14-208, approved submittal of 2014 Community Development Block Grant Action Plan. I see no one coming forward. I'm going to bring it back to the council for a motion and a second.
So moved. Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any questions, comments?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I had
Mr. Herman.
requested, and I think I sent you an email on it.
Right.
And Mr. Roloff, I would like Mr. Burge to come forward and just talk a little bit about what is in the 2014 Community Development Block Grant Plan and how it affects the city, and just kind of let our citizens know what we're going to do if the plan goes through.
Well, thank you. The annual the annual action plan is part of our annual entitlement grant that we get from the Department of Housing and Urban Development. We call it our CDBG grant. We've been in entitlement community. Entitlement community is any city over 50,000. We've been an entitlement community since I think the inception of the block grant program, which is about 1975. And annually we fund various programs and under 4 broad categories. The first one is Central City Redevelopment Community Facilities. We're proposing $100,000 into that, and that's really an opportunity-based redevelopment fund where if we have blighted properties throughout the Central City area, we can tap into that. $100,000 will buy us maybe 1 or 2 properties at most and be able to tear it down. Years ago, I mean, if you can remember the block grant program, we were upwards of $1.5, $1.7 million. That line has been dramatically going down. So our ability to do many things under the Central City redevelopment, just block grant in general, is going down. The second fund, and that's the fund, the Housing and Neighborhood Development, is the one where we fund probably the most activities. It's where we get a lot of a bang for our bucks. It's where we put, it's where our single-family owner-occupied rehabilitation program is located. That's where we work with low to moderate income property owners, and we do rehabilitation projects on their house. And we put a mortgage on that house for when it sells. We get our loan back called mortgage satisfaction. Then we return that money. We revolve it back into the program. The third broad category is public services. We're proposing $75,000 into public services. That's where we work with the consortium, the Public Service Consortium, which is the City of Oshkosh with this United Way funding and foundation funding. And I think this year we funded 10 programs. We got 10 applications, and we were able to fund 10 public service agencies to some extent. And then lastly, it's administration and planning. We do use some of the funds to support staff, and we do some plans. Some planning, and then we do fund, I think, 12.5 to the Fair Housing Center of Northeast Wisconsin to handle any fair housing issues that we may have.
A question, comments?
And just what percentage of the funds have to go to benefit low and moderate?
That's great. That's a great point. 70% have to go to LMI benefit. So as proposed, we are sitting at 70%. To LMI benefit, low to moderate income.
Okay. And then briefly, how do we get that information out to the citizens that want to apply for any funding or grants for the program?
Typically, well, I think we have some stuff on our website, but a lot of times we'll try and target area. If we're working in a certain neighborhood and we're trying to promote revitalization in a neighborhood, we'll do special mailings in the water bills. We'll take an advertisement out in the buyer's guide, and then kind of through word of mouth. Getting out to as many outlets as we can.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? I got one question. As you pointed out, it used to be up close to 1.5 million. It was a little over a million for a long time, then dropped down. Is this what it is, only 515,000? I thought we were closer to the 700,000 the last couple of years. I thought it was going to be close to the same.
The right hand side of that, if you're on page, which
shows the budget.
The 515 is the actual LMI benefit. So that's the 70%. If you go one column over, the total allocation is 735,000.
Okay, the first allocation.
Correct.
Okay, so they have, okay, very good, thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to council. Any other questions, comments? If not, clerk, take the roll call vote.
Peck,
Aye.
Herman,
Aye.
Allison Osby,
Aye.
Pansky,
Aye.
Fitzgerald,
Aye.
Tower,
Aye.
carried 6.
Okay, the next public hearing is ordinance 14-209. Approve rezoning 143 Idaho Street and adjacent vacant lots from C2 General Commercial to R2 Two-Family Residence. Second time, ordinance 14-209. Approve rezoning 143 Idaho Street and adjacent vacant lots from C2 General Commercial to R2 Two-Family Residence. Third and final reading for people to come forward. Ordinance 14-209, approve rezoning 143 Idaho Street and adjacent vacant lots from C2 General Commercial to R2 Two-Family Residence. See no one coming forward, bring it back to the council for a motion and second on ordinance 14-209.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions, comments? Seeing none, I'll ask clerk to take the roll call vote on ordinance 14-209.
Peck,
Aye.
Herman,
Aye.
Allison Osby,
Aye.
Pansky,
Aye.
Fitzgerald,
Aye.
Tower,
Aye.
carried 6.
Okay, that takes us to citizen statements to the council. This is a time when people can come up and come before the council and comment on anything they'd like in the community, whether it's a positive kind of thing that you'd like to make a comment on. That's always encouraged, but if you got some concerns, that's always encouraged also. Keep in mind a couple of things. We want your name and address when you come to the microphone. Limit your comments to no more than 5 minutes at a time. Direct your comments to the council. Don't speak here on anything else on the agenda that's here tonight, and no electioneering. Somebody's at the microphone now.
My name is Patricia Diener. I live at 1316 Broad. I come here this evening that I just got word is yesterday we are going to be losing a good neighbor, but in the long run, he has gave the property over to Habitat. We're going to have a new home built on our block. I'm very excited for it. And I'm glad Bill and Nancy and his daughter decided to do something like this because it's going to help a family get to come in and enjoy it. And then if I could have some help with patching the street on Custard and Monroe. The snowplow took a lot of beating from it, and it would be helpful. And then I'd like to, a young lady I knew growing up through the city, her name is Jan. She retired today after 44 years. I remember her being a teller downstairs, and I was shocked to hear it, but that's a lot of years to be putting into one job. And I went to the traffic review board today, and I was told to bring it up to the council people. It was voted down. I don't want to mention names, but maybe the head of each department, and he knows who I'm talking about, could find out some information between Tennessee and New York and Broad. There's parking problems, and it was brought up today. There is no problem. I know for a fact snowplows can't get through. I know for a fact people block there to let people off. And I went home today to my family before coming tonight, and my husband just shook his head. You know, a couple of the people on the board here go by periodically, but it's not all the time. And there's other neighbors that will come and say something, but it probably won't work. Because, you know, if you take one side off the street, they're going to park all the way around the block. But I can't figure out, they have a parking lot. They should be using the parking lot, not holding meetings in the parking lot. The parking lot was there when Bucky's Food was there. And I can't figure why they don't use the parking lot. And that would help. It would help for safety matters, not just to complain, but I just wanted to give my input, and if you guys would take the opportunity to go by the area, check it out, to help me, and maybe we can get, I'm going to mention David, but David can help me out a little bit and check out the matter.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Daniel Lynch. I reside at 310 South Eagle Street. Recently, I searched the web under the title Smoking Attributable Mortality. Current estimates range from 380,000 to 480,000 deaths a year in the United States. If it's 380,000, it's down a bit from a few years ago. For both women and men, lung cancer kills more people than the next 3 fatal cancers combined, and 90% of lung cancer is caused by tobacco smoke. There's good news this year. Not as many kids are doing tobacco. This past fall, a friend and I visited North High for the hour before school till all the kids were in. And we looked around. There's a kind of a park-like area where there's duck pond and turkeys and you name it. We saw that. It was a beautiful day in the fall. What we did not see was any cigarette butts. If you don't find cigarette butts, you don't find kids smoking. We didn't see any smoking, although we patrolled around that area for an hour. And school was held that day. This morning, at West High, I found 6 kids doing tobacco. They were in cars and a truck. 3 were smoking regular cigarettes. 2 were smoking electronic cigarettes. 1 was chewing a wad of tobacco. There was no group standing around smoking like there has been in previous years. In fact, I have not seen a group all year at West High standing around smoking as I had in previous years. An example. I used to talk about Hawk and Porter for years. There were no groups at Hawk and Porter. I think last fall I found 1 or 2 that stopped there once. That was it. And you don't find any cigarette butts there if you go there today. Or should I say, almost none, because there may be someone parked that tossed one out. To what do I attribute this amazing drop in the kids smoking? I think better education, better enforcement, and probably a secondary effect of the fact that our bars and restaurants went smoke-free in this state almost 4 years ago. Beyond that, looking at the future, it's my impression that there are probably, even though it was 3 and 2 this morning, slightly more electronic cigarettes than whole cigarettes being smoked by the kids. Now, there are 2 sides to that. One is the electronic cigarette has several thousand less poisons in its smoke. But it doesn't say it can't cause a lot of damage. We just don't know. The other is it's a totally unregulated product at this point, and the kids can certainly become nicotine addicted because it's a nicotine delivery device. Basically, I'm with the state of Wisconsin's interpretation that says if it's banned smoking in bars and restaurants, they also ban the use of the electronic cigarette in bars and restaurants, which is great. But something you as a council might do is consider banning the purchase of all tobacco products, including electronic cigarettes, raising it to age 21. This is happening in several places across the nation, age 19 also in several states. Basically, the idea is, with purchase, use, and possession laws, is the idea of reducing kids smoking and kids' model for smoking. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to come forward at this point? Citizen statements.
Is it appropriate this time to comment on L30
on the agenda?
On what?
L30 on the agenda, is it appropriate at this time?
No, nothing on the agenda at this time. You wait for the agenda item or what?
Actually, that's the pedal pubs, which is under the council discussion.
Generally, what I've done is I've gone, yes, done that citizen statement's the second one, but if you want to comment on that now.
I could wait a second.
No, that's okay. If you want,
I'll wait. Thanks.
okay, if you be here till the second one, that would probably be worthwhile. Thank you. Anybody else like to come forward? Okay, seeing no one come forward, let's move to the consent agenda. The consent agenda is made up of a number of items that the administration feels are non-controversial in nature, and as such has asked us to look at these items as a group together, which we will do, unless either a citizen or a council member requests that one of the items or more of the items be removed from the consent agenda. If that happens, we'll look at those items separately. What I'm going to do is read through all these items. If you'd like to comment on a particular item, I'd ask you to come forward to the microphone at the time I read that particular item. Once I've gone through all the items, I'll bring it back to the council for consideration. Okay, approval of bills presented by the Finance Director. Resolution 14-210, award bid for dual-wheel regular cab chassis with dump body, hoist, plow, and hydraulic system for Parks Department to L&S Truck Center and Monroe Truck Equipment. Resolution 14-211, award bid for 3/4-ton four-wheel drive regular cab pickup for Parks Department to Ewalls Hartford Ford. Resolution 14-212, award bid for 3/4-ton full-size cargo van for Water Distribution Division to Ewald Chevrolet Buick. Resolution 14-213, award bid for full-size step van for Parks Department to L&S Truck Center. Resolution 14-214, award bid for 2014 Riverwalk Corridor lighting poles and bollards to Viking Electric Supply. Resolution 14-215, approved conditional use permit for automobile service business towing operation 1980 West Furno Avenue. Resolution 14-216, approved waiver to Plumbing Code Section 20-8 relating to mandatory connection of Burnwood Drive properties to public sanitary sewer system. Resolution 14-217, this begins a number of special events. I won't say special event each time. This one is Andrew Zollek to utilize 120 Wisconsin Street for his Dark Horse Graduation Beer Garden, May 16, 2014. Resolution 14-218, Center for Living in Christ to utilize Menominee Park for their CLIC Memorial Day Softball Tournament, May 24, 2014. Resolution 14-219, Oshkosh Patriotic Council to utilize Riverside Park, City Streets, and Riverside Cemetery for their Memorial Day procession and services, May 26, 2014. Resolution 14-220, Chris Wenzel to utilize Menominee Park for his first cast tournaments, May 24, July 27, and August 9, 2014. Resolution 14-221, Mercury Marine to utilize Best Western Waterfront and Municipal Docks for their Mercury Marine Media event, June 12, 13, 16, 17, and 18, 2014. Resolution 14-222, UW Cross Country to utilize Menominee Park and Streets for their Titan 5K, July 26, 2014. Resolution 14-223, that has been withdrawn by the staff. Resolution 14-224, that has also been withdrawn by the staff. Resolution 14-225, Center for Living in Christ to utilize Menominee Park for their CLIC Labor Day Softball Tournament, August 30, 2014. Resolution 14-226, National Multiple Sclerosis Society Wisconsin Chapter to utilize Menominee Park for their Walk MS, September 14, 2014. Resolution 14-227, this is approve appointments for boards and commissions to the following: the Transit Advisory Board, Parking Utility Commission, Plan Commission, Grand Opera House Advisory Board, Landmarks Commission, Traffic Review Advisory Board, Parks Advisory Board, Redevelopment Authority, Sustainability Advisory Board, Long Range Finance Committee, and Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee. These appointments are the ones I'm making of council members. You should have received a copy, and if anybody has any questions, they can always raise those with me. Resolution 14-228, approve agent changes and special Class B licenses. Okay, I see no citizens coming forward. I'll bring it back to the council and ask see if there's any questions or comments on anything on the consent agenda. Mr. Herman.
Thank you, Mayor. I actually have two questions, and they're related together, so I'll put them together. The Resolution 14-210 and Resolution 14-212. Traditionally, we are required to take the lowest bid unless otherwise appropriate. Obviously, in this case, we're going with CNG vehicles, which stays with our sustainability program that we have in the city. Is that correct, Mr. Roa?
That is correct.
Okay. And that's the reason why, even though the cost of the products are higher, in the long run, we'll get a little better bang for our buck and everything?
Right, I believe, and I'm using what you pay at the pump right now, but you're paying about $3.60 a gallon for gasoline, and you're paying $1.99 a gallon for CNG. So a little more than half, but yes, we've done some analysis, and we're looking for these opportunities to do compressed natural gas vehicles, and Public Works, I think, has made some really good use of them, and Parks is identifying areas that they can do it as well.
Okay. And I just brought it up, Mayor, as just an informational item to our citizens in case anyone questioned why we didn't take the lowest bid, or if any company questioned why we didn't take the lowest bid. We are following through with our sustainability program that we have here in the city of Oshkosh with our Public Works Department and other departments. And so I applaud the staff for doing the research and getting the information out and continuing to move forward with that program.
Thank you.
That's all I have, Mayor.
Anybody else? Question, comment? Look for a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as provided to us.
So moved. Second.
Any other discussion on any of the items? If not, I will ask the clerk take the roll call vote on the consent agenda as presented to the council.
Peck.
Aye.
Herman.
Aye.
Allison Osby.
Aye.
Pansky.
Aye.
Fitzgerald.
Aye.
Tower.
Aye.
Carried 6.
Okay, there were no items removed from the agenda, so that takes us to pending ordinances, of which we have two. Those I read. To read one, if you have an interest in commenting on it, please come forward to the microphone. Once again, the microphone is open. First one is ordinance 14-229, approval of parking regulation changes on Algoma Boulevard, Central Street, Columbia Avenue, Hamilton Street, Melvin Avenue, Woodstock Street, and 8th Avenue. See no one coming forward, bring it back to the council for a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion at this point? Okay, I'm going to ask the clerk to take the roll call vote on ordinance 14-229.
Peck.
Aye.
Herman.
Aye.
Allison Osby.
Aye.
Pansky.
Aye.
Fitzgerald.
Aye.
Tower.
Aye.
Carried 6.
Takes us to ordinance 14-230, approval of changes in short-term parking in the library, Otter East, Pearl, and State Street parking lots. Anybody like to come forward to comment on that? I see no one coming forward. Bring it back to council. Ask for a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any comments? Questions? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to take the roll call vote on ordinance 14-230.
Peck.
Aye.
Herman.
Aye.
Allison Osby.
Aye.
Pansky.
Aye.
Fitzgerald.
Aye.
Tower.
Aye.
Carried 6.
Okay, that takes us to new ordinances normally, and in the case of one of these, they actually require votes of two council members unless a council happens to waive the second reading, which we'll be asking in the case of one of these tonight. So I will read the ordinance out there. First of all, I'll start with ordinance 14-231, temporary suspension of bicycle registration fee from May 14 to June 30th, 2014. The staff would like the council to waive the rules and adopt on the first reading. Anybody like to comment on this? Waiving the bicycle registration fees. Okay, I'm going to bring it back to the council at this point and see whether or not a council member would like to make a motion to waive the rules and adopt it on the first reading. I think the main reason is to try to get this into effect as soon as possible. Bicycle season is here, so the sooner the better for the citizens. So if somebody make a motion second to waive the rule.
I would move to waive the rules of a second reading.
Is there a second?
Second.
Do I have any questions on that here in the council chamber? If not, any council members have any questions? Ask the clerk to take the roll call vote on the waiving of the rules.
Peck.
Aye.
Herman.
Aye.
Allison Osby.
Aye.
Hansky.
Aye.
Fitzgerald.
Aye.
Tower.
Aye.
Carried 6.
Okay, so what we have then is ordinance 14-231. I'd ask for a motion and a second on the ordinance.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions, comments?
Mayor, just a comment.
Yeah, Mr. Herman.
I sat on the Bike and Pedestrian Committee the first year that this got brought forward, and previously in the last year, Councilmember Clark had sat on that committee. The reason this is being brought forward is we want to get as many bicycles registered in the community as possible. This is the best way the Oshkosh Police Department can return bikes back to citizens when your bikes get stolen. Granted, the fee is only, I believe, $3, so it isn't a extraordinary fee. But the key thing is to get those bikes registered, to get people to realize the importance of that, because our bike storage area at the police department is just loaded with bicycles, and most of them are not registered, and we can't get them back to the owner. So that's why the Bike and Pedestrian Committee has supported this the last, I think it's 3 years now, that they've asked the council to do that. So I just thought I'd make mention so that citizens realize, I hope we can get a little press out of this in the paper and promote it so that people do get their bikes registered. So if they get stolen, we can get them back to them. So thank you.
Good point. Any other comments? Okay, I'll ask clerk to take the roll call vote on ordinance 14-231.
Peck.
Aye.
Herman.
Aye.
Allison Osby.
Aye.
Hansky.
Aye.
Fitzgerald.
Aye.
Tower.
Aye.
Carried 6.
Okay, next I'm going to read ordinance 14-232. Actually, I'll read this one. This time it will be considered at the next council meeting, unless somebody wants to waive the rules and have it done tonight. So as I read it, if anybody would like to comment on it, they can come up to the microphone and comment on it. There will also be an opportunity at the next council meeting to comment on it if one so desires. Okay, it's ordinance 14-232, approve request to annex to the city Hickory 6 annexation, 2338 Hickory Lane. Okay, so it will be considered at the next council meeting for approval by the council, possible approval by the council. That takes us to new resolutions. Resolution 14-233, approve Healthy Neighborhood Initiative Program. Is there anybody who'd like to come forward to speak to that? If not, I'll bring it back to council for a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. We can have some discussion, but I've already made a request to the Community Development Department to come up and talk a little bit about this, and then the questions may come off that if there are some. So if you could come. Well, we got a whole
They're
group
bringing
coming
their
up here.
small army here.
I don't know that we need all those folks, but
It's a
but whatever.
multifaceted approach, so.
But the Healthy Neighborhood Program involves a number of dollars and some neighborhood work we're doing, and I think it needs some explanation, and people need to know how to get involved in what we're trying to do there. So help us out.
I'll do the introductions. We've been listening to the neighborhood associations, and we've been getting a lot of input from citizens through neighborhood surveys, through working with our partners in neighborhood revitalization, also when we were going through the planning process with one of our neighborhoods to identify what gaps there were that needed to be filled to help owner occupancy, revitalization. So these are ideas that have been generated by a bunch of different people that we've kind of put them together to help with a neighborhood revitalization that has been a high priority in the city's strategic plan for the last couple of years. So we're putting these together specifically to address those items. There is one additional piece that is in this, and that is the design standards. When we adopted those design standards earlier this year, we had an expectation that there'd be financial assistance for people who needed to comply with those design standards. Even though those specific standards haven't been applied to any neighborhood yet, we've already set aside some money to help those citizens comply with those requirements, those standards. So wanted to highlight those items right off the top so you knew where we were coming from when we are talking about healthy neighborhoods investments. And with that, I could answer any questions or go through the specifics, or I wasn't sure how you wanted to do that after the little introduction.
You got a couple specifics, and again, on how people
Yeah, I
can
guess,
get involved, that would probably be helpful.
question, Mr. Davis, if you can answer. Just how, when we talk residential engagement, what is the city, are we looking at? Education, training, what do we, the 4 prongs that you laid out to the memo to us?
Yep.
What are we trying to get our citizens to get involved with?
I'm going to turn that over to Mr. Burrich because he's kind of laid out the strategies that we have with the funding.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you. Let me just go over the proposed program right now. This is, first of all, this is exciting to us. This is new. We've created this program from scratch, and you graciously provided us with some of those TIF funds to fund this actual program. So now we've been doing some of the regulatory approaches. We've been doing some of the planning, but to date we really haven't had any funding to move forward on a concerted effort into some of these neighborhoods. So the idea here is we're going to target, or we're going to concentrate resource delivery and investment into a neighborhood, into a participating neighborhood where we have a neighborhood association in place and where we have an adopted neighborhood plan in place. So right now the conditions are right. We have an adopted neighborhood plan in place. We now are developing the Healthy Neighborhood Program so we can start funding activities. And we've laid out that broad, 4 broad categories. Resident engagement, I'm going to let Elizabeth take over on some of these. Resident engagement, which involves, it's really about, resident engagement is about going into the neighborhoods and getting them to want to participate in creating neighborhood associations and working with them on getting a neighborhood plan in place. Then we have things like education and training. We're hitting things like going into the neighborhood and doing a visioning with the neighborhood. Improving property maintenance, doing first-time home buyer training, things like that. Landlord training. Landlord training is a very important thing because if you get into our center city neighborhoods, you're seeing that we're anywhere in some of these center city neighborhoods from 50 to 90+% rental properties. And with such a large stock of rental properties, that means we've got a lot of rental property owners. That means that they need a lot of training, a lot of help. We actually did our first landlord training that was facilitated by Winnebago County. We participated with it. I think we got 100 people showing up. We hadn't done it for 10 years or so. We got really good reviews from the rental community. And a lot of the rental community are these little mom and pop ones that own 2 to 3, 2 to 4, or 1, and they don't really understand all the rules and regs, and they need some help. So that's a biannual thing that we're trying to get underway right now. We're hoping we keep moving that forward. The third broad category is pride of place. That's really where we're trying to get at some of the public improvements into the neighborhoods, and that's where we're pairing up some of that great neighborhood CIP money to improve things like, I think one of the most recent ones is the George Washington Triangle. We did the Stevens Park improvements. You've talked to me. And we're really trying to get at some terrace trees, community gardens. We did some community gardens, things like that. That's what we're trying to get at, the public realm. And then safety, and I'd say safety and crime control. And one of the programs that we are working on right now, it's a pilot program. This is the one we're working with Middle Village right now. It's called Project Porchlight, where what we want to do is we're turning off streetlights in the community. We're creating all these dark spots. And what we want to do is go to the property owners, get a bunch of property owners lined up along the block and fund a program where we would put a porch light, a dusk to dawn porch light on the front of their property, so to create that additional light in the neighborhood and kind of increase some of that safety. And then lastly, and this is where the most money is going to be invested in this program, and what's really nice about the funds is they're less restrictive than some of those HUD funds that we have out there. We can do a little bit more with them, but that's the housing revitalization. We're proposing a 75-25 ratio right now, where of our $809,000 that we have banked up right now, we want to put almost $608,000 or $607,000 into housing revitalization programming. And under that category, we have owner-occupied rehabilitation loans, similar to our CDBG ones. But again, we have more flexibility, and with this, we're looking at doing projects that we can probably look to add value to somebody's home. Whereas the black grant, we just are able to take care of some of the minimum housing things that bring your house up to minimum code. This one, we have ideas that we want to actually increase the value of the house, so we're working on that. Rental rehabilitation, again, because some of our center city neighborhoods have such a high percentage of income properties, we know that we have to deal with that situation. So we want to reach out and work with the landlords to try and improve some of those properties. Because if you look at some of the properties in some of those neighborhoods, some of the worst properties are some of those rental properties, and it's because sometimes it's not the fault of the landlord. It's the nature of the beast in this community. We have such a large supply of rental property that the margins are so tight, and a lot of times they can maintain what's going on the inside of the house, but they're not able to put a lot into that curb appeal. So what we want to do is work with them to try and improve that curb appeal, again, to get at the neighborhood context and make the properties look better. Curb appeal loans, that's where we're again, kind of speaks for itself. We want to, again, go into a neighborhood and work on these small little $1,000, $1,500 projects that get at that curb presence of that house to improve the look of the neighborhood. Traditional, Alan alluded to this a little bit, traditional neighborhood design overlay district grant. So if we can go into a neighborhood and we can get that traditional neighborhood overlay, put it onto an area, we want to have a source of funds to help implement some of those things in that neighborhood. So we're hoping that this is enough of a carrot to get a neighborhood wanting to get that overlay put on. And then lastly, this is a very important one, first-time home buyer assistance. We want to get people, again, with the ratios the way they are skewed in some of these center city neighborhoods, we want to get more people owning properties in these neighborhoods. So we've created a program where we're going to target certain neighborhoods. Right now, the target neighborhoods are where we have an approved operating plan in place, Middle Village being one of those. So we've created a program where we'll do I think it's a $3,000 to $5,000 forgivable grant over 5 years. If you live in your house for 5 years, the grant will give up $1,000 a year. So again, we're trying to get people to live in those areas. We're also reaching out for other partners in the community to want to participate in this program with us. We've reached out a little bit to the university, hoping we can get their employees more interested in living in that neighborhood, and maybe some downtown businesses. So stay tuned on that. We're hoping to get some more partners. So that's the broad brush of it right now. Each of these categories has their own application. Many of them have their own applications. We have most of the applications out. We're just waiting for funding so we can start moving forward.
Other questions by Councilman?
Karen, if I may. How are you getting out to the landlords specifically to make them aware of the landlord training?
That we did. We did a pretty good. We did a postcard registration out to all the landlord. Anybody that had rental property in the community, we sent it out. We sent out, I think, 2,100 2,100 brochures to the landlords. That's why we got such a great response on that.
Can you be referred? If you had like a renter, can they refer the landlord to you?
Sure.
Somehow get them involved into the training?
Sure. We're created again, we haven't had the landlord rental training. We only did it once, like 10 years ago, and we kind of let it just kind of disappeared. So we want to work to get that more active. So we're doing it 2 to 3, 2 times a year, 3 times a year, something like that. So we always have a revolving type program. So if you're a new landlord or you're an existing landlord, you can come to the program and learn something from. I mean, we had our property maintenance inspector. There's legal. There's an attorney there talking about leases. The police are there, and there are a couple others. So it's good training, but again, we're going to evolve that over time and continue to make it better. Milwaukee has a great program where I think they do something monthly. They have the wherewithal to do it monthly, but they've gotten rave reviews across the country as far as I know for their training. So we're trying to model and pick up what they're doing and make it better, because we know in this community, such percentages, we have to do something.
Other questions, comments by council members? Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, we're on Resolution 14-233. We have a motion and a second. Had some presentation. Any further discussion about this at this point?
I want to make a comment, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. Again, this is an excellent program. As council members, we hear periodically, what are we doing to revitalize our city, our community? What are we doing to increase property taxes, we know, excuse me, Mr. Birch said we have a lot of rental properties and we're trying to get them into first-time home buyer things. Here's an opportunity for the citizens to get involved, and they need to get involved. every year we kind of hear that we have the programs, but we don't get a lot of interest from the citizens. So this is an opportunity for them to get involved. And yes, it's not as much money and things as we've had in the past, but it's still an opportunity for people with limited incomes, people with okay incomes to get involved too, because the income levels are okay as far as allowing some of these programs to exist and help them with remodeling their home and doing other projects that would increase the value of their homes. So I urge our citizens to look into the programs, look into getting involved, and taking the opportunity to enhance the value of their homes through these programs. And this is a great opportunity. So I just want to get everybody that can get involved in the program. And also, as Mr. Burge said, they're excited. It's the first time in a long time that we've been able to allocate funding for programs like this and allocate dollars that have some real meaning to them. So it's a great opportunity for the citizens of Oshkosh to get involved. Thanks.
Comments, questions, discussion? As Mr. Herman said, we've not had a lot of response to some of our programs in the past, and part of the reason that we get in the way of feedback is there haven't been dollars provided by the city. So we're trying to provide some dollars because we think this is important for a whole variety of reasons. So hopefully people will step up to the table, take advantage of the dollars that are available, and do some work, get involved. Okay, I ask clerk, take the roll call vote on Resolution 14-233.
Peck.
Aye.
Herman.
Aye.
Allison Osby.
Aye.
Hansky.
Aye.
Fitzgerald.
Aye.
Tower.
Aye.
Carried 6.
Okay, Resolution 14-234, approval of special event. Hmong Service Center, Inc., to utilize Winnebago County Fairgrounds, Sunnyvale Road, and Winnebago County Park for their Hmong Oshkosh Memorial Day Weekend Festival, May 24 and 25, 2014. Would I like to come forward to speak to that? Line up, might as well line up over here, the microphone, if there are a number of people who want to speak to it.
My name is Billy. I'm residing at 1340 Liberty Street, here in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. And I would like to take this opportunity to say thank you to Mr. Mayor, the Deputy Mayor, and the remaining of the City Council of the City of Oshkosh. And many of you, a few of you might have know me, but the last couple of years, I became the president of this organization, the Hmong Service Center, and I have came here ask for your support. And when I took over the organization have no office except the tax ID remaining. And I do my best, and I come here asking for your support. And you guys have been outstanding support the Hmong Service Center, and now with the limit funding to the organization account, we have reopened a small office for the Hmong Service Center for now. And tonight, I would like to ask all of you again to support our organization again. But the problem is that this year there was another group of Hmong residents here in Winnebago County, and came up and proclaimed to be the new group of the organization. And they went to the county executive office, and he decided that should be a joint event, and that's the problem we're having right now. And I can tell that she's also here. Her name is Mi Yang, and she also here. And it is shocking to me that she also if this this event is to go on, she wouldn't be on board with us. And she also supporting her friend, one of her friends, the former president, that closed this organization down, OA. And he do one of his events in Green Bay, and he petitioned this aware that you all might have seen this petition also to shut this memorial day here in Oshkosh down, and that is we cannot afford that. The organization cannot afford that, and somehow something like this happened over the dark. I have no clue. And on May, another shocking turn to this event was that they have more like a town hall meeting on the May 4th, and they suggest all their group, 4 of them, including Mi Yang, suggesting that if this event to go on, there will be a violence, and including weapons. And I'm very, very concerned up to the point that I think this event cannot go on due to the fact that they suggest violence, fighting, and weapons in this event. And this event was broadcast and was posted on YouTube worldwide. And recently, I just checked their YouTube again. It's called a Shua Hmong News from Milwaukee. And they broadcast it in YouTube worldwide. And last couple of days, I went back to the site and looked at it. There was some comments that they should suggest that they should use gang agents and Billy, and that's me. And I just can't understand why this group proclaimed to be the new group. What is the reason why they're suggesting such chaotic comment and statement broadcast in the worldwide? And how could a community afford that? I would like to know that. So that's all I have to say. And thank you for your time. I'm asking for your help again. And this event must go on. And I can see the danger of it. But I relied on the Oshkosh Police Department. They have enough power. They've been helping the Hmong Service Center wonderfully from the last 2 events. And I can give you an example. Okay, thank you. Okay, appreciate it.
Your 5 minutes is up.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Perry Sharp. Closer. My name is Perry Sharp. I've been a board member to the Oshkosh Community Service Center.
Where do you live?
1036 Mount Vernon Street.
Okay, thank you.
For the last 2 years since February 2012. This organization was pretty much penniless. It had been shut down. B took the organization and built it back up. He's quite a salesman. He provides programs for translation services, helps people to get hired, helps job training. He wants to institute an educational program for...
Can we focus on the event itself?
The event will provide money for these programs. These programs are necessary to initiate people who are poor at English to increase their involvement in the community. And this event brings a lot of money into the community. People come to the hotels, people go to the restaurants. So it's income for the community. And for it to be shut down would be a shame. It's also an event that is cultural and brings a lot of people together and a lot of children. Okay. So, well, that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question of Mr. Lee before you sit down again? Hey, just in light of the threats of violence that
Yes.
you had, are you anticipating any other? And I know you said you're relying upon the Oshkosh Police Department, and I know they've done some good work out there the last few years. Are you anticipating any additional measures of security or
we do.
safety?
Yeah, I'm in the process of contacting some outside private security firm to assist the Oshkosh Police Department too. And then, if possible, I will assign as many as possible of the security personnel from the Hmong Service Center to communicate with the from the Oshkosh Police Department and the outside security firm too. So.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, I have a question. Mr. Lee. Mr. Lee, there was a requirement early on from Winnebago County, I believe, that there had to be a joint application for this, correct? And now you're asking the council to only award the application to you? Or are you willing to work with the other applicant that applied for this permit jointly?
That's we're going to have to work out. Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I would prefer that, since we have a court hearing coming up on June 2nd to determine who is the legitimate president of the center, I would prefer that since this story just recently came up and by the other group, I would suggest and I would appreciate that if this event was, would just, approved with the Hmong Service Center itself. And that is, I believe that is from the county, Winnebago County office too. It's not, he suggested it's a joint event, but it's not awarded to me or to her. It was, he suggested he award to the Hmong Service Center. So, and that would be the board director of the Hmong Service Center.
The application, as it exists, is a joint application.
Correct. And
That's the
I'm
application
just,
that is before us.
right, and that's why I'm a little confused to what, if you can't work with the other applicant, I don't know how we can approve it as is. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, before I say something, I would like to pass this to the council.
That's fine.
Thank you.
Part of your time.
I probably take a little time, about 5 minutes.
You have 5 minutes. You've
Okay.
used a little bit of time up. We need your name and address.
Okay. My name is Nick Lowe. I live in Neenah. My address is 923 Reading Avenue in Neenah.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I was resident of the Winnebago County for the last 30 years. And part of my life is living in Oshkosh here. Before I want to say something to all the city council, this fundraising is very important to the Hmong Service Center because we have no funding at all. And this too, the Memorial Weekend fundraising and the Labor Day weekend is very important to the Hmong Service Center. The reason bring me here tonight is to tell you about this paper that I just passed to you. Mi Cheng, the other co-signer of the application, she held a meeting in May 4. And then, right after that, she wrote a petition. You probably see that in your desk already.
We have the petition. Everybody, we have the petition.
Mm-hmm. And then, she also denied in front of the city attorney and the city clerk that she knew nothing about this picture. The former president of the Hmong Service Center, who closed the office completely in 2008. He also the chairman of the election chair for Mi Cheng.
Okay. Can we focus on the event?
Mm-hmm. And also, he also have his own tournament in Green Bay that is going to hold at the same weekend in Green Bay. And he also here tonight. And I would like you to approve the permit to the Hmong Service Center if Mr. Wang and Mi Chang want to have a tournament with them, let them go to Green Bay. I know that this tournament is bring a lot of economy to the city of Oshkosh, to the small business, and we also want this fundraising to support the Hmong Service Center. And I ask you to support. As a resident in the Winnebago County for the last 30 years, I ask you that this tournament, this fundraising is very, very important to the Hmong in Oshkosh. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I have my 5 minutes?
Yep, 5 minutes.
My name is Micha Yang. I am the new elected president of the Hmong Service Center. I have been a member of this organization for 27 years. I have been very active with this organization, with every president, including Mr. Bealey. I supported Mr. Bealey greatly in the last 2 years during his term. I voted him into office. I just want to say that Mr. Bealey and his board of directors term expired after 2 years, and that was December 31st, 2013. The last 2 years, they held 4 major tournaments, the Memorial Day weekend and the Labor Day, 4 major tournaments total, which amounted to hundreds and thousands of dollars. And those dollars were gone missing. There were no report after each event. When members and community asked what happened to them, we were told not to ask. We were told those are financial information are confidential. Members have no right to see, which we don't believe that's true. In the last 2 years, no staff hire, no services, pretty much no nothing. Mr. Bealey's term came to an end after 2 years on December 31st, 2013. The members of the organization decided to hold an election after Mr. Bealey refused to do that because he didn't want a new person to come into office and take over. So then,
I want you to focus on the
Thank
tournament. Do you want the tournament or not?
I will. After I was elected into office, we began to battle against who is supposed to lead the organization. Now, currently we have a civil case pending in court. June 2nd will be the first court date to decide who is the legitimate. Because of the pending case in court, the county, Mark Harris, decided that it would be to the best interest of the organization and the members that both Bealey and I conduct this event as co-chair, which I agree. And we signed the county contracts. We signed the city permit application. But Mr. Bealey has continued to refuse to work with me. And that's pretty much what the problem is here. On April 6th, Mr. Bealey and his board, or his group, signed some agreements with me and my administration that we are going to work together. And I believe the city has a copy of this. He signed this on April 6th, that we are going to work together to promote this event and to make the best out of it. But after this was done, everything was signed and completed with the city. We were waiting for approval and all that. I reached out to Mr. Bealey since April 13th to work with me, to work with the members of the association to move on to this event. He has continued to refuse to work with me, and we've been emailing back and forth. And Pam and the city attorney, the county, they were all being copied on all the emails that we've been emailing back and forth, trying to work with each other. All I got from Mr. Bealey was just like one attack after another. He would not talk to me about the event at all. One of the things that we were supposed to work on was to hold a community meeting, a public meeting with the members that we claim to lead. And we're supposed to work together on this. I reached out to him since the 13th. He did not want anything to do with the community meeting. He did not want anything to do with me. Until I finally decided that I'm going to find a place, a date and a time, and I will tell him that, which I did. And he refused to attend, and that was the Sunday, May 4th public meeting. At that meeting, we were basically discussing about the civil case, and we were discussing about the planning of the Memorial Day event. There was no threat whatsoever made at that meeting at all. There were like 70, 80 people who attended in that meeting. People were concerned that if B. Lee and his group is not cooperating with us, that they fear that there might be physical harm, there might be violence. Yes, they did mention that. They were concerned for public safety because this type of event is supposed to be fun and enjoyable, not to mention the fact that it brings benefits to the association. And we want to keep it that way. But because of lack of cooperation from Mr. B. Lee and his group, it kind of led to concerns of the people, of the community, that they fear. And people are talking about being afraid to come. And I am concerned about that too. And I wish that he would step up and cooperate with me because all I want is the best for this organization.
Thank you. Do you want to speak? Anybody can have their 5 minutes. So,
Mr. Mayor, just one thing before we move forward. We're speaking about, just so everyone understands, you're speaking to the special event permit. We're not litigating your civil case at this time. So please direct your comments to what is before this city council.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and councils. I will be addressing the event. I'm a community member.
Name again?
Oh, Ann Banglo, and I reside at 532 CB Avenue, Oshkosh. And I wanted to thank you for your time and effort in trying to help the Hmong community resolve this situation. Everyone made a good point tonight. They talked about how this event brought money to the Hmong community. Actually, it does not bring money to the Hmong community. Supposedly, it should be bringing money to the Hmong community to programming, to have prevention programs to assist the Hmong community. But as a resident of Oshkosh for 23 years, and for the past couple years, I've been following these summer events. I don't play any role in any of these events. And I have not seen any accountability anywhere at all. So this is not about benefiting the Hmong community, but more benefiting who is running the event. Both me, Yang, and B. Lee are being forced to compromise, to work on this event together, from my knowledge. And I believe Councilman Herman made a comment about that it should be a joint effort. I did attend a meeting December 24th about how B. Lee did not want to rerun. And then on May 4th, I attended another meeting about the summer event. It was a public meeting. I received an invitation to attend it. In the past couple of years, I have never seen any notice about attending any of these Hmong public meetings.
Okay.
Supposedly the Hmong Service Center.
Again, could you speak to whether you're for the event or opposed to the event?
I am opposing it. I don't believe that neither group should be running it. I think that the city should just shut it down for now, pending the lawsuit. It would benefit the larger community, the Hmong community overall. I think until someone can be held accountable for the finance portion of it, these events should never be approved again. It is not like any other event. And why is it that this event is treated more special than any other special event? Isn't there a city policy on special event?
Yes, there is.
There is, but
And we're acting within that, so that's what we're doing.
Okay, because my concern right now is that if you approve for Mi Yang to take this, something may happen, something may not happen. I don't know. None of us do. If you approve for Billy to work on this, something may happen. But I can assure you that there is no accountability. So I hope that the city thinks about how allowing this permit would affect the Hmong community of Oshkosh. One is claiming to be president, and yet the other is claiming to be president. So really, I hope that the council, as leaders of this larger community, really think this through before approving of this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and all of the city councils. My name is Chia Sa Vang, the former president of Hmong Service Center. I've been living...
What's your address?
Oh, I'm sorry. My address is 802A West New York Avenue, Oshkosh. I have been living in Oshkosh for the past 30 years, and I have been involved with the Hmong Service Center for the last 20 years, or 20 plus years. And I'm here today to bring to all of your attention that this year is very unusual year to have this event for the Hmong community of Oshkosh, because in the past 2 years, yes, I understand. I support Ann Vang or Ann Lee statement that yes, the event has brought a lot of financial to the Hmong community or to the community at large, but just to benefit a certain people. And that is my oppose. And today, I'm one of the petitioners who signed the petition to all of you to double check to make sure that Mi Cha or Mi Ya and Bi Lee cooperatively working together. If they don't, I don't think we want to see any chaos or any financial loss. So it made me think that one of the example is that back in the 1990 or 91, when the Kuwait War was underway and the war was going on. Right now, the war is going on in the Hmong community, similar to that. And somebody is going to take the money and run. And your 20,000 police compensation might not be there. So that's my concern. And if they are willing to work together, I support that. But they have to come and work together. Don't just fight each other, verbally fight each other, or point finger to each other and think and claim they are both leaders. I don't think leaders work like that. They have to compromise and make sure benefit the citizen of Oshkosh. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak to the special event?
I was sitting here listening to everything. My name is Patricia Diener. You know how they say there's a war back and forth? You got to realize I've gone through the park after the races and seen the big fest. But you know,
Could you focus on the event itself, whether you're for it or against it? Support it or don't support the event?
I'm for it. I think that you can't let other things get in the way to get violent and make a corruption, because you know you've got children involved. Is this the way you're going to set example? These young children are trying to make a home here, and I think it'll work out, and you don't have to worry about. People need to stand up and stand up for what they believe.
Thank you. Anybody else? You spoke before. Okay. Anybody else who has not spoken? Okay, I'll bring it back. Bring it back to the council for a motion, a second, approval of a special event on Resolution 14-234. Is there a motion and a second?
So moved. Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion.
Chief Groyle.
This evening, we've heard some verbalization of threats in that. Do you believe that your department will be able to adequately address any security issues? And have you reached out to the two parties to develop plans in that to this point?
As part of our regular special event planning, we have looked at staffing issues that are needed to police this event. I think we normally do a very good job of that. We have made determinations of what our staffing level should be. And let me just kind of address the threats. I did have Detective Chi Vang from the Oshkosh Police Department review that video. He has looked at the video and feels that there were no direct threats made, as he interprets from that video. He thinks that that may be taken out of context, so he's kind of minimized that part of it. Having said that, these kinds of events have caused concern for conflict in the past. We've had gang-related fights and conflict and tension that has required us to escalate our staffing over other events. So we have put together a plan. This one isn't quite as well attended as the Labor Day. We don't really believe that the attendance is going to be any higher than normally on a Memorial Day. But in light of the tensions that are going back and forth, and it's obvious the tension is here, we feel a little bit caught in the middle. We do have some concerns that we're going to be placed in a situation where we have to make a decision one side or the other, and that's not our role. And we don't want that to be our role. We are concerned about the point in time where money is collected in transfers hands, that we're going to be put in the middle of how that's going to happen, and we think that there's a high likelihood of conflict there. Are we adequately staffed? I believe we are to handle it.
Have you had problems in the past collecting any of the fees?
That really hasn't been an issue for us in the past. This is a little bit different circumstance this time.
Our staff has not had any problems with the collection of the fees, although there are obviously more unusual circumstances, and the city attorney and the city clerk have met with the individuals at the special event review committee last week. Both representatives indicated that they recognize they will be responsible for the city's costs related to that event. We believe that they're going to be true to their word. We're disappointed in the fact that they can't resolve their disputes, but that's the court system to work out, not us. An option available to council would require some type of prepayment, either full or in part. It's not based on historical issues that we've had with other organizations who have not paid. The Monk Service Center has been very diligent, have paid their bills on time, so it's not a question of that. But if there are any concerns or questions or disputes, that's something that we could consider. They have paid their bills on a timely basis in the past.
If I can just clarify, because I think I'm being misunderstood when it comes to the money collection. I'm talking about the on-site collection of the vendors to whoever the organizer is. When the vendors show up, some of them are prepaid, some of them pay to the organizer. They go around on a Friday night usually and collect that money from the vendor that is then used to pay the bill. I'm not talking about the payment made for reimbursement of services to the city. That's been done. I'm talking about, and the intelligence that we're getting is there's potentially going to be some conflict that occurs between whoever the organizer is going to collect the money to the vendors for their spot at this event, and law enforcement being put in the middle of, and the potential violence that might occur there.
Other questions? Discussion? Yes, Ms. Allison Osby.
This is one where to be honest, I don't even know where to begin. First of all, it's disappointing that having the understanding that there's been conflict, and it sounds like for months. And if there hasn't been cooperation, and if there is a civil suit or something of nature that there needs to be a court decision, I'm surprised that there was even a permit taken out or the event planned at all. So I find that a little bit disappointing. The event itself, in the past, I think has been a wonderful event. I certainly support a cultural event, one that families can participate in, a safe environment, and especially if really not only to celebrate the culture, but to also take any income or any proceeds from that event and reinvest it back into the Hmong community for those members, for the children that are coming in. You know, I applaud that. We certainly want that event here in the city. But what I can't support is, or I cannot support, is having something in which violence is brought up. To me, it is absolutely, completely insane that we would even consider passing something in which violence is potential, in which we would have attendees, citizens, or our staff in our police department at risk. And for that, I will not support the permit for this event. I think it should be something that should be postponed until after the courts decide. We are the city council. We, as Mr. Peck had mentioned, you know, we're not here to, you know, hear sides or determine who is right, who is wrong. That is not our role. We're here, we're a policy, we have an event policy, but right now I don't see how possibly we can support this event. We unfortunately, like Chief had alluded to, it's putting our police department in the middle, as well as it's putting the city council in the middle, and it's not a position that I appreciate being in.
Mr. Fitzgerald.
Yeah, myself as well. I don't appreciate being in this position. Unfortunately, we've been given background from Mr. Lee about his side of the story. We've been given background from Ms. Yang about her side of the story. We have some depth, some history associated with both sides. Unfortunately, we can't be in a position to make a definitive decision, and that's what the courts are going to be doing after this event comes up. There's some allegations of financial mismanagement. We don't have any evidence, unfortunately, to support that. The only thing I have to go on is the fact that Mr. Lee has run this event the past few years, at least that I've been on the council, successfully and admirably, and done so according to the guidelines of our special event policy. We do have the special event policy in place, and that dictates how these events are carried out, as well as the decisions that we as a council need to make regarding how those occur. I think the threats of violence are unfortunate. I saw that in the petition that we received this week, and it almost seemed implied in some respects, and I think that was unfortunate from a standpoint that I almost wondered if it was an attempt to throw this event off of its course. I guess in my understanding of our special events policy, and in keeping with my understanding of it, I'm going to be supporting this event because I think it's Mr. Lee has demonstrated in the past that he's done so responsibly. And while I think the threats of violence are unfortunate, I wonder. I guess I can't believe that they weren't offered up as a threat from this event occurring altogether, and I think that's unfortunate.
Anybody else? Mr. Peck?
You know, when you make a decision, you have to look at the totality of everything that's in front of us, and I agree with what's been said earlier tonight. I don't appreciate being in the middle of this. We're not here to judge one way or the other. But when I look at things and I get the information and I follow up on things, and some of the things I've heard tonight, I'm very uncomfortable with this, that in supporting this. I understand what good it is and what it can do, but I also understand that when you've got gasoline, you don't bring an open match near it. And I believe that everyone's heart is in the right place. Unfortunately, your heads aren't, is the way that I read this. And that once you get everything all straightened out in the civil event, in the civil area of this, come on back. I think that the city will support you in this. But we have to make a decision in the best interests of the whole of this city, and I am just uncomfortable with what may happen, and I know that that may not happen. But unfortunately, I can't make that call after the fact. I have to do it at this point. So I can't support this either. But I would urge you to get together, because like I said, I think your hearts are in the right place, but you got to get your heads in the right place too.
Mr. Herman?
Thank you, Mayor. This was a joint application, and from the information we have been receiving tonight, it appears that one of the joint partners doesn't want to be part of the application any longer. So application in and of its whole, in my opinion, the way I look at it, is that Mr. Lee and Ms. Yang don't want to work together in this event, and so the application no longer is valid because it's a joint application. I'm also concerned about, we're not here to, it's the organization issue. Ours is strictly on the application, but I am concerned also about our officers. I'm concerned about the county park property that is involved in all of that, and what could, if there was an issue out there, and we've had issues, complaints of thefts, we've had other incidences. You mentioned the gang violence thing. I'm confident our police department can do a great job and control it. The fire department, if there was anybody got hurt out there. But I also got to take into consideration that 100 people in the community signed a petition against the event. And they all are Oshkosh residents. They live in the city of Oshkosh. They're not people from Green Bay, Wausau, Twin Cities, where a lot of the people that come to this event to support it and support their heritage and their culture, which, as Ms. Allison Osby said, is something we want in the city of Oshkosh, totally. But at the same time, when we have 100 citizens that live in the city of Oshkosh that are members of this organization don't want this event, we have to listen to their voices too. So I can't support it either due to those circumstances, and we'll vote against the permit. Thank you.
Just coming into tonight, I was prepared to support this. Part of the reason was I talked to staff and we'd gone back and forth with us a couple of times, and primarily because I think the event's important, as has been pointed out by a number of people. I think it's important for the community culturally. I think in terms of building community potentially, it's important, and I think the revenues to the Hmong community are extremely important too, because I think there are a lot of programs and people who potentially can benefit from it. But we've seen the division, and we tried to basically force, in some ways, people to get together, to work together. And we had a joint petition. And so I was happy when I saw the joint petition. And with the joint petition coming in, I assumed that the two leaders were going to take on the responsibility as leaders to work together. It doesn't appear that's going on right now. So as Mr. Herman said, I think the joint application is no longer a joint application when one individual organizes a petition against it. So I view it not being particularly valid. Also, the comments, I suspect, are true. I was a little concerned with Mr. Lee's comments that we look to the police department to make sure it's a safe event. That's not up to the police department to make sure it's a safe event. I mean, we're there to help in that way. But I don't like two groups in the community say, we're at odds with each other, we're in conflict with each other. Okay, police, you keep us all safe. That is unfair to the city. This is an issue that's going to have to get worked out within the Hmong community. We've seen some things over the past year. We've seen them in the past at times where there's conflict and people come to us, each presenting their side with some rather strong language. I think stronger than it's intended. That's the nature of being advocates of things. And we keep going back and saying this is going to have to be resolved within the Hmong community. I seriously doubt that the court case is going to solve this issue. You're going to go to court, and there are going to be some things that are going to be said. Maybe somebody will be given legal control of the organization. But they're not going to solve the issue either. It's going to be up to the Hmong community. And I guess I'm convinced from the conversation tonight and of concern, because we apparently don't have a joint application anymore, and I was willing to support it as a joint application. If the leaders are going to take responsibility for it, the leaders, I can't tell, but it doesn't appear that they're working together. And with the threat of violence, and also we call on our police department to do a lot of things in this city during the summer with special events, and I don't think we have to add to it by the people putting on the special events saying we're going to be in conflict with each other. I don't think that's a fair burden on the police department. We have a lot of other things we're placing on the police department at this time. Police department's already put a lot of time and effort into this. There's been a lot of background work leading up to tonight. I thought we'd gotten to a place where I was willing to see if it could work and then say if it didn't work, that'll probably be the last tournament for the next few years, as far as I'm concerned. I was going to give the choice, but from what I've heard tonight, it doesn't appear that that's going to happen. So I cannot support this event where we are tonight at this particular point in time. And the community's going to have to get together, and the June court decision is not going to settle anything. It's going to be of significance over time. Folks are going to have to get together and say, we have a Hmong community, it's important here, and we have some things within the community. We're willing to work with the Hmong community in terms of the Hmong and others, but we also want to respect your culture and you people as a group, and we don't want to come in and tell you what you do within your group. I mean, that's not for us to do. We're willing to work with you. We want to respect you, too. So, with that being said, I will vote. Probably. Anybody else? Ask the clerk to take the roll call vote on Resolution 14-234.
Peck.
No.
Herman.
No.
Allison Osby.
No.
Hansky.
No.
Fitzgerald.
Aye.
Tower.
No.
Lost, 1-5.
Okay, that takes us to council discussion, direction of the city manager, and future agenda items. First thing we have on here is health insurance workshop on May 27 at 4:45. I recognize that can create some issues for some people at work. Come when you can. I think we really have to try and start early to get as much information as we can at the workshop. We may end up having a second workshop on this before the year's out, I suspect. So we're set on the 27th for those that can be there at 4:45. Others, please come when you can, because I think this is important to us in terms of budget, in terms of some policies for our employees. Okay, the next thing is direction on commercial quadricycles, otherwise known as pedal pubs. City manager would like some direction on that. I'm going to ask the city manager to briefly describe a pedal pub, and he's done this in a memo to us. I think all the people in the council have seen the memo and seen some alternatives. So could you lay out a little bit of what, for the public, for what you laid out to us, and then we can talk about it.
I'll have to give our staff members, the City Attorney Lawrence and City Clerk Huberg and Chief Groyle, credit for the authorship. I merely just authorized and reviewed it. But I would say that staff did a great deal of research to take a look at what these essentially are. And essentially what these are, they're multi-passenger quadricycles. They're big bicycles that some people from pedicabs, you've seen that, but they're really intended for groups of 12 people with a driver. And in addition to the pedaling capacity, they have cup holders and capacity to hold liquid refreshments. In the case of state law, it's fermented malt beverages, beer, those types of fermented malt beverages. The idea is that you can move the bar out onto one of these pedal pubs, and people can take these fermented malt beverages and ride through the area. If we do not regulate them, state law has provisions in there that automatically provides for them. Cities are given the option to regulate them or prohibit them. And the city has capacity to regulate them based on their wishes. City Attorney's memo identified these for a variety of reasons. I wasn't aware of any large groups of people that were advocating for this. City Attorney informed me that she had been approached by a couple individuals that were interested in this. I did speak with some tavern owners. I can't say that it was a representative group, but people that I've spoken with in the past, representatives of the Tavern League, the local Tavern League, and they had their hesitations about it. I can't say they were adamantly opposed, They certainly were not in favor.
Can I just comment at this point?
Sure.
Ms. Lawrenson has an email that she got. Given what you're talking
Okay.
about right now, want to ask her about the email then?
Sure, that'd be fine, because staff has really been looking for input before we brought this forward.
Two things. I think we do have a gentleman in the back who is interested in operation of a pedal pub. And then I also got an email from Pat Pertel, president of the Oshkosh Tavern League, that they would support the option number 3, which is prohibit the service of fermented malt beverages, because they felt there were just too many unanswered questions with regard to operating the quadricycles, and with the possibility of untrained people and potential danger to the public and their customers. They felt that at this point they couldn't support.
I just brought that up. Mr. Roloff was saying it was open and they took a position as a league
Yeah,
on
because
that.
I talked to Mr. Pertel last week, so he,
That was just an
that
action. today, evidently.
formalizes as from his position as president of the local tavern league.
Mr. Mayor?
Yep. Mr. Herman.
I'd like to, I guess, waive our rules a little bit, and if there is someone in the audience who wants to talk on this topic, council's willing to let him have his opinion, because staff is looking for direction from us, and I guess we've heard now from the Tavern League. I think we should let the gentleman have a little say, too, to what his, so I'd like to waive the rules that,
Is the council,
to wait till.
is the council open? I can do it by consent. Is the council open to that? Listening? We'll give them 5 minutes. That okay? Okay. You got 5 minutes. Wait till you get the microphone.
My name is Mike Kramer, and I reside at 200 Merritt. A friend of mine and I just ran into each other one day, and he was looking at his phone, and I saw the news that day, and he looked at his phone and said, "Look at this petabyte. You know, he says, I can build one of these." And I looked at it and I said, "I can market one of those." Hence where the call went to the city clerk's office, and looking to see if there was any local ordinances, because the state statute, I'm not proposing public intoxication. I'm not proposing disorderly conduct. I'm not proposing a frat party on wheels. There are positive points to this, which you could develop in the city as a nice amenity. One of my fields of study in college was history, and being born here, raised here, educated here, returned here in my later years, that there's a lot of history here that we could tap into that would give citizens, visitors, tourists, family members from outside the community kind of a different perspective on the city. It's not all negative. Yes, there are cup holders on there. State statute states 36 ounces per person. I don't know what that translates to. I thought about that on the way over, but that might be a quarter barrel or something. What I was requested to do is give a brief overview to the city clerk's office, which was apparently relayed to the city attorney and the chief of police. Many of their concerns that they have in the memo would have been, I could have addressed basically in some dialogue. Many of the concerns they have are concerns that I have, and it's kind of interesting. I'm in favor of course, resolution. The second part, if we could have an ordinance allowing the vehicles. You know, there was issues raised about litter. That's a concern. What would we do about litter? We might have to backtrack after a tour and go and see if there's any litter. You know, that was something we physically have to do. Complete sobriety of the drivers of the vehicles. That would be something that what I would be advocating. We would have to have, you know, my thoughts would not operate after dusk. It has a short operational season anyway with our weather. 1 and 2 hour increments of tours or bike rides, whether it be a brewery, historic building, tour of the city, through a residential neighborhood, anything like that. You know, if you go longer than 2 hours, it's kind of defeating the whole purpose of getting somebody out in the community and looking at it from a different perspective. You know, it's again, I'm not proposing anything that, you know, would have somebody overly indulge in malt beverages. The amplification was the issue. If we did a tour minimum application, with option number 2, you would be able to legislate that this could be licensed through an established facility that does have a license and issued as a permit, or else you could license the quadricycle as it is through a license through the city. The
about 30 seconds.
About 30 seconds. Okay. I surprisingly brought that up about the Cabin League because they did appear in favor of it at the Assembly and Senate hearings in Madison. And again, it's something that we would do positive in the community, not promoting public drunkenness or anything like that. I hope that you would consider the second option of this as an alternative to disallowing it and or else not doing anything and just letting it run free with the state. Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for coming in.
Mayor, if I could?
Okay, Paul.
Since we're discussing, I agree with Mr. Kramer in a way with the option 2. I think it'd be a neat thing to have, a neat thing to have in the community and have the opportunity for people to, if whoever vendors want to. But I'm not in favor of open intoxicants on something like this. I think that could create some problems, or could create some problems that would be tough to regulate in that. But I think everything else in that option 2, locally regulating the operation of the quadricycles would be a great thing. Where, you know, if someone wanted to in their entrepreneurship develop the bike or develop or buy the bike or whatever and set up tours in the community, we would have control over that, just like we did with our ordinances with the cafe ordinance. And so I think that being fair to our establishment and businesses to keep alcohol out of the situation would be the right way to go. So I think option 2 would be something that I'd like to see staff maybe put something together and bring forward to council. Thank you.
Other comment? Yeah.
Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I'm also interested in pursuing an option at least where there's perhaps some measure of regulation. I don't want to necessarily quash out a business opportunity if where one exists. But these are popular in other communities. I don't know if there's been any outreach to the CVB to find out if they would provide any kind of support in the way of marketing for something like this, or their endorsement. I mean, these are bigger draws in larger communities, in the southeast in particular, and is there an opportunity in terms of being kind of first to market, so to speak, as opposed to if we were to altogether prohibit this and then find, Appleton is having this discussion right now. Other surrounding communities will be having this discussion if they haven't already, and if Oshkosh is going to end up being one community that doesn't have it within a variety of communities that do. It could perhaps be a missed opportunity. I'm not saying I endorse it. I certainly want to see it regulated. I don't want to see it open in the manner that it would be if we did nothing about this. But I'm certainly interested in exploring, doing further research and exploring some of the options for regulating a pedal pub.
Others? Yeah.
Mr. Mayor?
Ms. Paskey.
I think it's a great idea. I'm excited that somebody from the community came up with this idea for our little town. I think it can be used in a very responsible manner, and I do support our option number 2. I think we have a great opportunity here to kind of take the reins and set an example for those surrounding areas that may be looking for this opportunity in the future. I think it's great. I'm looking forward to it. So good luck.
I'm willing to have staff look into this a little bit more and, address some of the issues here. It is similar to the sidewalk cafe and the mobile vendors, so, at the same time, I think we should all do our due diligence as well and look into these as well.
I agree.
I'm fine with that. I guess my problem here is the pedal pubs. I got to get rid of the word pedal pubs. I can be supportive of the idea of having commercial quadricycles, but without alcohol at all. If there's going to be alcohol on wheels, if there are going to be cup holders and people drinking alcohol, I'll be a no vote for sure. I can tell you further on down the road. You can't drop the position. But I can see the commercial part of it. If it's a touristy thing and somebody wants to take the risk, they may not want to take the risk without that. But I don't want this to be a thing for weddings where people go from wedding to pub on bicycles built for 12. That's not, I would have trouble. So I can live with the idea of doing more research, looking at them, but I can tell you up front that if alcohol, cup holders are part of the deal, and alcohol's allowed, I'd have to go on the third part.
Just a question for the city attorney. Do we have a timeline? I mean, if somebody wanted to start it now, even though we got the discussion going, could we deny them that where we're
No.
discussing?
Right
State
now,
law takes-
state law is in effect. They would be able to do it with just following the state statutory rules. If we put something else in place, then they would need to come into compliance with that, which is why, to the gentleman's credit, he came to us first.
Sure.
So that, we didn't
But we couldn't
regulate
stop,
it after
right.
the fact.
Just out of fairness.
I would also think that if we were looking into this, if someone was wise and they wanted to have one, they'd say, I think I'm going to wait a little while before I invest in it, and then have the council decide that they don't like it, because we can always later, if somebody did it and we were unhappy with it, we could eliminate them
Yes, you can.
like that. So I think the wise thing to do for any kind of commercial venture, work with entrepreneurs a lot, it would not be a good investment until if I find out more, they'd be better on their part to try and do some lobbying to try and get involved with what this thing might look like. So I would think we have some time.
Without alcohol, they're effectively pedicabs, which do exist on a very limited basis in the city. But they're taxis. They're effectively human-operated taxis.
Well, taxis or else show, but we talked about the tourism, the driving around or whatever. But
the regulatory part is really
maybe
about
lose
the
a
alcohol.
desire.
So if council is interested in that, the real trick to this ordinance would be the details that are identified in option 2. So I would ask council to go through those and forward to me features that you would or would not be interested in, because it'll be, otherwise we will spend a great deal of time crafting this ordinance right in front of you, and it's, remember the old line about seeing laws made and don't do them in public? It's like watching sausage being made. That could be very difficult. So what I would ask council to do is go through that list. I think City Attorney Lawrenson had a pretty exhaustive list there, and so go through those and provide us with feedback so that as we craft an ordinance for your consideration, that we have a general idea of what features you do or don't want. Alternatively, the state law would apply, and then those would be very specific about what those rules are. That wouldn't provide you with any geographic limits. Geographic limits are allowed. Hours of operation are allowed. It defaults to state statute if you don't do it. So go through the memo and just identify things that you do and don't like. Get them back to me. Staff will work on crafting a draft ordinance if that seems to be the consensus. And we'll try to craft something. We'll certainly identify if 4 of you are interested in something and 2 of you are interested in another, we'll lay it out there, but we'll at least give you a draft ordinance that somewhat reflects where we think you want to go, so we'll minimize the amount of time that would be spent at the council meeting itself.
Are there any draft ordinances out there for other communities that?
There are some. Appleton was mentioned, they're coming forward with a prohibition on fermented malt beverages. Milwaukee has an ordinance that's coming forward. I have not actually seen the draft on that. I've seen some of the discussion, and some of the points that we raised were actually reflected from some of the discussion out of that Milwaukee ordinance. Madison has an ordinance that we've seen. The one thing I guess I'm not real clear on, if I can, is the fermented malt beverages. I know two mentioned it, the other ones did not. If that's this, a lot of this is really about whether you serve fermented malt beverages on there or not, and I need direction on that. So if you specifically can address that for me, that would be very helpful.
So to clarify, there is or is not any other communities that are allowing?
Madison does.
Does, okay.
And I'm not sure on the status of the Milwaukee ordinance. There was an ordinance coming forward. I'm just not sure whether it has passed or not yet.
Can you get it, if you see a couple of those ordinances,
Sure.
if you can send us a copy, email us a copy, because it'd be useful to read off of, just to see. Is that enough direction at this point, or anybody have other comments at this point?
Just a
Ms. Paskey.
question, Mr. Roloff, are you guys getting any direction from the people interested as to what routes they're looking into or what hours of operation? I know he said that it was seasonal, but are we looking at?
We haven't gotten that far yet because we wanted to see if there was interest in it to begin with, so.
Those are the types of things now that we'll start looking into. But the real key is fermented malt beverages. If it's thumbs down, then really you're talking about a cap, and effectively you need to prohibit it then, because we already regulate cabs. They're just smaller, but larger ones are allowed. There's traffic laws and transportation laws that address all that. It's that the magic of what happens with that cup holder. Do you have beverages in it, or is it Coca-Cola? If you have Coca-Cola, not a problem. The minute you put a fermented malt beverage in there, it's got to be regulated or default to state law.
Okay, set? All right, direction on open combination Class B license, potential dormant Class B licenses. We didn't get a lot of background. I asked the city manager to talk a little bit about what he wants from us here. It goes back to past discussions that we've had.
Sure. Council may recall last year there was a liquor license that was revoked because of lack of activity at a certain location, Spot, North Jackson Street. Remember all that? That liquor license was basically there with the clerk, and it's available. We took some time to just see how things would unfold. There hasn't been a great demand expressed, but normally demand is typically not expressed until we let people know that we're accepting applications. We don't have any applications on file. We have people who have expressed interest, but quite honestly, they're pretty dated. So there's a long shelf life to those inquiring about it. Similarly, there are some liquor licenses that have been dormant for a while, some that have been issued but not actually activated, meaning they haven't been selling alcohol. One such was the one that you did award last year. You moved it from Sisters up to Cinders on North Main. They haven't sold alcohol at that location. That's another provision. There is the assumption that when you issue a license that they will sell alcohol. I've had some experience with that in the past, but when they're given a license, the expectation is that they will be selling alcohol, and the dormancy of a license is not just based on whether the doors are open or closed, but whether they're in fact selling the beverages for which they've been licensed. So you have those. And then before we go out and start advertising that we're accepting applications, we wanted to bring it back to council, get some input from you on, do we want to wait until we pursue some of these other dormant licenses, bring those to you first, and then after that, then we could just let people know. You're under no obligation to issue your full quota of license. So you holding the license, as you have done, is totally okay. Do you want to wait before you go out and say, is anybody interested? Do you want to take a look at some of these other dormant ones? before we do that, so that when we go out, we say we have 1 or 2 or more licenses available.
How many of these dormant licenses are out there, rough numbers?
I'll defer to our city clerk, Ms. Hubrig.
Okay, with the renewal season coming upon us, there's a couple. Taboos, which is located on 9th Avenue, they have been closed from the water, when we can tell when the water was turned off. That was April of 2013. He officially told us that he was closed July 1st of 2013. That individual has not applied for that license. The bank is interested in it, but it is coming up to the 1-year mark. And then Walleyes, that's located on 6th Avenue, July of 2013, they closed their doors. So that's those two. Mr. Cinders on 9th Avenue, he closed after EAA last year, 2013. He did give us a letter that he's remodeling, and that he does plan on opening October of this year. The Old Mahoney's on 6th Avenue, they closed their doors November of 2013. Timbuktu's, they had that fire, and that was January of 2014. The Tilted Kilt is on Washburn. The bank now owns that as of March of 2014. And then, as Mr. Roloff indicated, that individuals have mentioned that Mr. Cinders on Main Street is only selling beer. They are not offering any alcohol.
Thank you.
Well, I guess my 2 cents on this issue is we follow our ordinance, and if they're dormant for over a year, they're noted that they're to be revoked, or their license could be up for a hearing. And I think we should follow our ordinance and pursue. And then when we have a total number, if there is that, then council can make a decision of whether we want to put them out there. But I know that in the past, my 4 years on council, the liquor licenses have been pretty hotly contested and people want them. So I think we should have that option available. And then any of those other ones that you haven't mentioned that there are issues, I think you should bring them forward to council and let us know who those are, and those that are not following through with what they were given, which is pre-price. As we've seen when we've had business owners come forward, asked to have them transferred and things like that, they're a pretty important piece of paper. And also for retail, selling it, it's important for someone to have that license too. So I think it is an issue that council should get as much information about, and then if they're not using it within that 1 year, like our ordinance says, then they should be put on notice.
I think there's a couple things. What he's asking, if there are things that are available, do we want to advertise that they're available and tell people, say, like in September, we're going to give consideration to letting the license out? We were basically holding that one license for a while because we didn't know what would come up, and we really didn't advertise it much. To go along with that, I think that goes on what Mr. Herman said, is I assume we'll be considering in June those licenses in that time. When's the renewal on the license?
You will start seeing renewal applications the next council meeting, the 27th.
Okay, the 27th, but the dormant ones, you'll be making a list of those that are eligible not to be renewed?
The 2 that have met the 1 year, do we want direction on inviting those individuals to a council meeting?
I think we want to go forward. I think it would be wise to wait to see whether or not there are going to be like 3 licenses out there, or just 1 license. Sometimes you want to hold 1 license till for that special for that special thing. But if we have 3 of them out there, a number of people, we ought to advertise that we have them. We might let a couple of them go.
Yeah, I just think, we should continue to be fair as we have been in the past. If they've been dormant, we bring them into the council meeting. What's your plans? Or, like Spot did, and we hold theirs.
Ms. Allison Osby.
Just a question. I'm wondering if there are any communities out there that are less than 1 year.
Yes, I can tell you that when I was in Grand Chute, we took a look at dormancy because the demand was so high, and the demand was a little different than the way we do it here, but there were always people on the waiting list, and they were actively on the waiting list. So if people didn't move on those, we went back and said, if you don't have it, we've got somebody else. Now, normally, the circumstances in Oshkosh are much different because they're kind of held on to for a much longer time, as opposed to the turnover in Grand Chute was much more rapid. So it was easier for somebody to surrender the license because they knew they were really just getting to the end of the line and they would move forward. The licenses here tend to stay, they're like Packer season tickets. They tend to hang on to them for a very extended amount of time. And then you get a lot of transfers because transfers are allowed from one person to another, but that's essentially the secondary market for them. They can't sell them actively. They have to get them approved by the council because they are city licenses that are granted to an individual for an establishment, but it's not the same circumstances, but other communities do. They want those things turned over so that they're not lying dormant.
Because I know since the time that I have served on council, I mean, we've had some legitimate situations in which, there is a need for a full year. However, I will certainly say since the time that I've been on, I've certainly seen some circumstances in which it's been more about a game and maintaining control on it and not really utilizing it for the full benefit where, I've seen other businesses want to have it and need it as part of their establishment. So I just was curious if there were any communities that if they issued them had more of a, you have 60 days, 90 days in order to use it, or essentially the community pulls it back.
I've seen them pull them back.
Okay.
Other comments, thoughts?
Yeah, I'd like to see the city wait until after we get through this process in the next 2 months and then make available all those that may be available at the time beyond just the one that currently, I certainly would like to see the city clerk's office pursue those two that have been vacant for a year at this point.
Any other comments? Doesn't look like I see anybody with further comments. So
Thank you. Good direction. I appreciate that.
Let's move on. Council member announcements and statements, sex offender regulations. Mr. Herman.
Thank you, Mayor. I think I put this on the agenda. I think we all got emails from concerned citizen, and we've gotten other emails from concerned citizens dealing with locations of sex offenders throughout the community. We do not have an ordinance. We do not have any kind of regulations. I had a lengthy discussion with Chief Broyle, and I'd like to have him just come up real briefly to kind of go back over that discussion. But I think what he's going to recommend, and I support it, is a workshop, council and community to educate the community on location of sex offenders in the community and why they live where they live, and I'll refer it to the chief because he clearly helped me out understand it much better. So.
Yeah, I think if that's the best thing that I can say, I think it's important. Part of the best practices or strategies for helping everyone understand really the whole issue of sex offenders is community awareness and education. And I think a workshop would be important so we can deliver information about, regarding the myths, and the realities concerning sex offenders. I think there's a lot of myths out there. Information regarding sex offender behavior, I think, would be important. Why they're placed the way where they're placed. Prevention and risk reduction measures, and what community resources are available to victims. I am not in favor of residency restrictions or proximity zoning requirements. They're counterproductive to public safety. There's plenty of empirical research out there. State of California, Iowa, Florida. There's lots of states out there that have done studies and support not having residency requirements. The Wisconsin Coalition Against Sexual Assault actually is not in favor of residency requirements. And I've got a bunch of talking points if you want me to go over them, but I think there is some value to having a workshop to educate the community on why offenders are placed where they are and decisions that are made and who makes those and what we do from the police department perspective on notifying the community. I have always taken a very proactive stance on this and have made notifications when special bulletin notifications come out and offenders that are still on supervision are being released. I have always made public notification of that. And then we make decisions about other levels of notification that we will do. So, I think there is an importance to get some of that information out. But bottom line is residency restrictions do not work. They're counterproductive to public safety.
Does a workshop sound like a good idea? Well,
I was going to say, can we get that on the
we could use the
schedule?
information too again, because we hear bits and pieces, so can we put that on the agenda for
Oh, yeah.
workshop when
Yeah.
it can be worked out? And then
And
Yeah,
if I
Ms.
can make
Paskey?
a comment on the workshop, let's
Okay,
get it earlier.
two things. One, Mr. Herman
Oh,
first, then
sorry.
Ms. Paskey. He was,
Would this be compiled into one workshop, or do you feel that there's enough information for 3 workshops, or?
When we do community meetings with a high-risk offender, we have kind of a canned program that we do. It's very good. Nicole Hall from the registry program and probation and parole is involved in it. Reach counseling is involved, so it would only require a 45-minute workshop.
45 minutes. Thank you.
now, when we say workshop, when we talk workshop, we're talking council, other people can come and listen, or are you talking about having more of a community event, Mr. Herman?
No, I was thinking council at this point because it would be a taped event. But I think the people that the chief mentioned are the people we want to hear from. A good example, I actually thought probation and parole placed the sex offenders, and they don't. They have to find their own housing. So there's a, I don't want to say a myth. but
There's
a
some
misunderstanding.
assistance depending on
Yeah.
the level of supervision
Right.
they're on.
Right. So I think that would help council. And as the chief said, I was thinking of ordinance right away because it came up in the Middle Village study a little bit, concerns of how many were in their neighborhood and things like that. And so I think it'd be all good for all of us to get that information, but have those people that work in that field give us their information. And I would say, what I was going to just say, as long as I have the floor correctly, sooner than later, Mr. Roth, so we don't get into budget season.
Well, I think this is something we're going to recommend at the next meeting, a specific date.
Okay, very good.
If I can put in a plug for Oshkosh Media Services, they've recorded our community meetings that we've done and that presentation that's been conducted, and I think it plays on a regular cycle at times. I'd have to look at their schedule to see if it's on, but I mean, that's good public information as well, right, on Oshkosh Media Services.
If I may, Mr.
Yeah,
Mayor.
Ms. Paskey?
Chief, if there are, say there's a neighborhood association that maybe has some concerns, would somebody be available to give them their own
Absolutely.
little? Okay. And they can just get a hold of you, or?
Yes.
Okay. Great.
Okay, so we're talking about a workshop for council, 45-minute.
Yep.
To Ms. Paskey's question, sometimes we find if we don't cover everything we want, we can always have another workshop or do it again rather than deciding up front. So let's go with one, see where we are at the end of it.
Great.
That's okay. Okay, I think we got it.
Thank you, Mayor. That's all I had on that topic. Thank you, Chief.
Okay, that takes us to citizen statements to the council once again. If anybody would like to make a statement, the microphone is open, subject to the rules. Nobody's coming to the microphone, so. City manager, announcements and statements.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The citizen survey that was conducted by students at the University of Wisconsin-Oshkosh Public Administration Program is online, available, and I believe all the council members received a hard copy of the citizen survey. Again, it's online. This is the 6th year in which we've done it. Deputy Mayor Allison Osby accompanied me to the class presentation. I'm sure she'll have some, insight as well into what she saw. The 6 years, I think, have given us a little more breadth of data about where we are, where our citizens are with respect to certain things. One of the things that I think remains true is the importance of certain services, the traditional public safety services, police, fire, EMS, and still very strong support for public library and senior services, as well as public works services as well. Very high importance. On the quality side, police, fire still remain very high in the terms of quality. Public library is another one of those issues. Other public works services, refuse, recycling, very highly regarded. The ones that have traditionally had lower rankings from the public have been things like stormwater, which we all know our history of stormwater, and street improvements. But with the aggressive program that Public Works has had in the last 4 to 5 years, there's starting to be a little bit of a turn in a positive sense. The negative numbers are going down, which is good. It's still a lot of room for improvement. We know that. We're working actively on it. But you can see that the public is starting to recognize that there has been some improvement, and they're acknowledging it, which is very good. One of the other ones that was interesting that came up was it was almost off the radar screen, but in terms of trails, 5 years ago, trails were virtually non-existent. A lot of negatives. The negatives have virtually disappeared. They're down to about 3% negative comments about the trail system, which I think is it reflects the commitment that we've made to improving the trail system. A lot of other things are in there about a place to live. The open-ended comments are always interesting, where the public can say just about anything they want. The timing of the survey is always in March. That was only a month after the tax bills were due. There were concerns expressed about the taxes in terms of how the tax has been going up. The timing was also very timely with respect to feedback on the recycling fee that was instituted by council, as well as, even though there were some council members concerned when the PSC made their notification about the water rate increase, there were plenty of members of the public that were aware of it when the survey came out, because there were comments there too. So water, sewers, sanitary, stormwater, and the recycling fee, those are there. So I don't want to sugarcoat it. I want the council to be aware that those comments are out there, and I would encourage you to look at it and dig in a little bit into the survey and see what kind of things that you glean from that. I think this is valuable information. Staff takes it seriously. I think Professor Nolenberger is very pleased that the council, through his observations and through his academic research, has shown how the council has responded with survey results with what you've done in the capital improvement program. So there is a correlation that you're being monitored kind of like lab rats a little bit, but it's very much so. There's a correlation between the results of the survey. So I think council has been responsive to the survey. So with that, perhaps Deputy Mayor Allison Osby has some other additional comments. She was there about 10 minutes before I got there, so I'm not sure who she was talking to before I got there.
They obviously knew Mark, so I got an opportunity to hear a number of stories regarding Mr. Roloff, all good and all in fun. But no, it was actually very impressive, and not having been there before and reading the survey, I guess I was under the impression that it was students that were probably more in the younger range. I was surprised that they were adult students who are in the workforce, and they take the survey very, very seriously. And it pretty much, City Manager Roloff summed up everything that we heard. It was very consistent. Obviously, like he said, some of the open comments were very direct regarding the fee increases, tax increases, things like that, because obviously with the timing. On the flip side, in those general comments, they also felt that City Manager Roloff and the staff was also doing a very good job. So there was, I would say maybe there was just a minor amount in which there was some criticism of the city and maybe decisions that the council had made. However, the majority was very, very, very positive. And City Manager Roloff is correct. I mean, it's amazing. The library, where it's scored, is so highly regarded and certainly a much-needed resource. So certainly can be proud of that.
There's one more that I neglected last time to mention when I was talking to a group about this. Every year we do what I call a bonus question, just to kind of gauge where the public is on various things. We've done dogs in parks. You may be familiar with them. On page 28 of the report was about moving utilities underground, because that issue's been out there. And there's a lot of division on that issue. But when it came down to the rubber meets the road with respect to money, everybody, I think, recognizes that regardless of how we get it funded, it's going to get funded by tax dollars or residents or some combination thereof. Recognizing that it likely would be a tax increase if it wasn't assessed to individuals, they said if the amount of the increase was zero, so if it didn't cost anything, 45% of the respondents still said no. So 45% is pretty strong. And then when you add a very nominal $25 and then up to $50, you've added 18 and 15% respectively. So you're at 3/4 of the public saying $50 or less, I'm not a big fan of paying for undergrounding utilities. I would say Mr. Potek has been working with Wisconsin Public Service on 9th Avenue, which has been one of our pilot projects, and really the idea there is not to necessarily move them underground, but to get the clutter crossing the streets. And that is really what our goal is with Ninth Avenue. That is not going to be as costly, and frankly, Ninth Avenue is so difficult because of how narrow the right-of-way is there. So all I can tell you is that the residents were not overly enamored with paying for undergrounding. So I share that with you. I'd read more details. The students went into a great amount of detail about this because they knew that was the important bonus question this year. So take a look at that and underground at your peril, I think. Other two items, unless there are any other questions about that. The pub crawl, I reported in the newsletter. Mr. Kubiak visited me last week and indicated that he wasn't sure how I misunderstood him when he said he would take care of the bill. I assumed he was going to take care of the whole thing. I can say he never said at any time, I'm going to pay the full amount without any question, but he indicated that perhaps he would only do $2,000 at the meeting this time. I didn't get a confirmation whether or not he had in fact paid anything. I neglected to ask the finance department today about that, but no one called me and let me know, so I assume that the payment has not been made as of yet. And I asked Chief Groyle to begin the work to identify the beneficiaries. It was all recorded. They kept a great amount of detail, but I asked them to just hold off on that, showing Mr. Kubiak's initial good faith. Obviously, I'm disappointed. $2,000, the bill was $5,800, which was consistent with other years. So it was not anything unreasonable. I think there were some thoughts that perhaps it would be less because of the rain that was that night, but the rain let up after a while, and the crowds continued into the evening. So the police department was still there. So that issue's out there, and our intention is to come back to council, identifying the benefiting properties, notifying them, and letting them know what the cost is. If Mr. Kubiak pays $2,000, that's roughly about a third of it. So we'll determine who we believe the beneficiaries are. We'll ask council to make those findings. So I guess stay tuned for what we plan to do with that, and we'll provide you information as it becomes available. Any questions about?
In years past or events past with pub crawl, we've gotten some type of breakdown from Chief in regards to how many citations and then broken down, and I haven't seen anything. Is that something that could please be provided to council within the next week?
Sure. Yeah, I believe they were working on that post-citizen report. I think enough time's passed that we should have that.
Okay.
If there's nothing else on that, another event to plan for, we've done strategic planning in the past with a day-long retreat. What I would ask council members to do is to let us know if there are any dates. And usually we've done it midweek, so Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I think we were looking at Wednesdays in the past. I'm not sure if there's any day of the week that's particularly bad, or if there are any dates, I would say, middle of June to middle of August. Kind of keep that 8-week to 10-week period in mind. If there's some blackout dates, I would already black out the week of EAA just because there's so many other things going on. But take a look at that range, and if there are any dates that are absolutely not going to work for you, July 4th week we're going to write off as well. So we're already narrowing ourselves down, but if you can give me some dates that are blacked out, then we'll suggest some potential dates. But we have typically done, or typically, when we did it, we did an all-day retreat, and we'll arrange for something at the university where we're off our campus and on their campus.
Yeah, in fact, maybe we ought to try and nail that date down in the next meeting. So try and get those dates in. The dates you know. If you know when you're going on vacation, get those dates in.
And I'll send I'll have Jan send you a reminder.
We want to try and get that settled so people have it on their calendar. So they'll be making more plans for being away, I'm sure.
Yes, and once we set the date, then we'll start. We sent out a survey last time where council filled out and gave some information so that when it'll still be Walter Jankowski. He's going to make himself available. Council was very pleased with him last time, so we'll use him again. And he uses that feedback from the survey to get the ball rolling at the start of the day.
And you're looking for all dates or just any Wednesdays?
You want Wednesdays?
Yeah.
That-
You tell me, if you think Wednesdays is a day we can shoot for, or do we just do like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays?
Well, you can work Tuesday, Wednesday. If you know you're going to be gone sometime, if you know some dates are bad, set those dates during the week.
That would really help, yeah,
'Cause
because then we know.
You need more flexibility than just Wednesdays, probably.
Yes, you're probably correct.
So,
Okay. Well, I'll have Jan send an email out to everybody. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
okay. Look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned.